All right, so getting right into the video, what is the YESS Manifesto? This is something I just came up with in the shower. It's the Young Esoteric Single Summer Manifesto. And I know we have a lot of acronyms right now and meme brain rot with like different ways to describe young people having fun. But I was kind of thinking of this one because I feel like a place that these current trends lose me is they're always so extremist. Like they always lack in nuance. So for example, I know I talk about him so much on my channel, but he genuinely fascinates me. Clavicular, who is like, you're chopped. The only thing that matters is if you look good. And then we have people who are like, embrace yourself fully. And I'm like, where is this happy middle ground where you can take good care of yourself, showboat a little bit, but ultimately have a good soul? I think the goal is not necessarily to fully liberate yourself from your ego, because there's a level of awakening where it's like, you want to have fun, I don't think you want to be so woke that you can't enjoy things. And I understand the true meaning of enlightenment to me is, I think, being able to find a balance of connecting with others but still feeling comfortable in yourself. So you might say, okay, that's fine and dandy, but what does this have to do with being young and single and summer? That's the esoteric portion for you. So this isn't just like the young, trend. Because I hear people say all the time, young that. And I just think it's interesting because with the real like manosphere dialogue going on right now, I'm very hesitant to ever, harp on the fact I'm single and all that in this day and age, because I think some man is going to come and like clock your tea and be like fatherless behavior. But I want to emphasize this picture of my dream life, which is freedom, being well-rounded, making meaningful connections, but also not sacrificing the energy and life force I have for other people. And I think in a more, diluted way, these trends about being young and single kind of embody that in a way, because they're emphasizing that you're not giving all your energy to someone else. You're being beautiful or handsome for love of the game. You're doing it because you want to feel good and enjoy. And these past couple weeks, despite the fact I feel like we've all been tiptoeing around how bad the allergies have been, I think we're all kind of ready for this warm weather and this Aries season really just pushing us into it. Like, okay, do your thing. Winter's done. Go ahead. And I really think it's important for us to kind of have an ethos for what we want this summer to look like. Because for me, summer kind of turns into this long, never-ending, like, kind of dreamy haze of time when it gets really hot. And I'm like, what did I even do? But I think lately, so this is where we get to the YESS Manifesto. A few things that have kind of resonated with me lately and made me have this moment where I stopped and asked, why am I having the best time ever right now? These are just some overarching themes I've been reflecting on. So, first of all, ditch your phone. Okay, I'm going to go into everything with a nuanced way. I will tell you guys, first of all, the more positive things you listen to, the more it is going to rewire your brain chemistry. I used to listen to videos about weight loss and I would genuinely like persuade myself that I was losing weight, like burning calories by watching the video. And now I was doing that in a way where I could tell it was more of a fixation rather than a desire to grow. But now when I watch a podcast while I'm cleaning or doing something, I genuinely reflect and say to myself, what am I trying to get out of this? And I'll have the most bum day ever and be listening to like a YouTube podcast girl talking about how she drinks her green tea. And this has me like, wow, I'm really out here drinking, Alani energy drinks and sleeping 2 hours. And I could be like slow maxing and drinking tea. So be mindful of what you are consuming. I do think listening to things like this has a benefit. This long form content is enriching our brain and making us kind of, I keep hearing this concept online of the erotic, and it's not in a inappropriate way. It's in a way where you're genuinely like indulging in the divinity and sublimity of this life that we have. And I've been really obsessed with that concept lately because I remember very vividly in high school, like being really into literature, poetry, ballet. and kind of having all these dreams for this future where I travel and meet all these people and it's very magical. And I feel now that everyone's trying to get us onto this AI slop. And I really don't want that. That's not my utopian dream for how life should be, you know? So I asked myself, how can I go back and romanticize life, you know, really savor in the moment? Today, I was driving to go get a coffee, and, you know, I think you've got to be really mindful of your body and what your body is telling you in any moment. I keep hearing this concept online of if you pray before you eat, whatever you eat will nourish you, and kind of this placebo effect. And this is really where manifestation comes along. And I do have to sit here and say, I was raised by a mother who would always say, wishful thinking is not a solution when I was being lazy and not doing something, which is good advice. You know, she raised me to be tough. However, I've learned the more you do find wishful thinking as a solution, obviously in combination with some good, you know, action, I think you have to be delusional to attract what you want. And let me give you an example. This all relates to this YESS manifesto, this summer and spring lifestyle I'm trying to embody, where the daily is divine and I am the peak of that, you know? But my mom would, for example, like when I was telling so many guy friends this past weekend, I went out and I did my makeup, I danced, and, you know, I've gotten to a point, I have a lot of friends who are really talented musicians, and I can go out to their shows and dance, and I know I'm going to see a familiar face. So there's that comfort. But you might say, okay, well, you have friends with all these cool people. You've always done cool stuff. But the origins of this for me quite literally involved getting off the couch, putting on an outfit, going out. I was so nervous. My heart was pounding in my chest. And then coming up to random girls and being like, you're so pretty. You're so cool. How do you do it? And then half of the time I would get their social media. And that's really the epitome of networking. You know, if you're a man, I think it has to do a lot with maybe like sports or whatever men talk about. But, you know, that's why men go golf and do stuff like that. And I think this is really where I say this is where it's the single summer. You've got to embody what you're here to embody. You know, like if you were put in the body of, everyone's going to say you're a girl, you're a young girl, you're a young ho, as they say, obviously referring to that acronym. You need to go look your best. You need to go have fun. You need to go network. And so many of my guy friends were like, how do you dance? How do you not be afraid that people are perceiving you? And it's just, you just have to do it. Recently, I was in a fashion show and it was a super exciting experience. But I remember at the practice, I was really trying to not sell myself short and like apply my own advice. Like, you know, oh my God, everyone here's a professional model and you're like just some guy, you know? And I felt my heart beating in my chest like this as I walked out. And I was like, I'm just going to sit in it until it goes away. And I think I've gotten to a level of awareness and self-control where I can just sit in the discomfort. You know, I think so many people don't even want to put themselves in a situation where they feel it. Sometimes I feel dread before I go out where it's like an unknown situation. I don't know who I'm going to see. I went out with one of my friends today who was like, I get so much social anxiety just being in a restaurant. And I feel very strongly that a lot of Gen Z genuinely struggles with things that previous generations did not because of our high screen time. And I think it's very important that we are honest about that. You know, it takes a lot of courage to say, I feel socially anxious or my social battery feels drained. I do not think, however, you should let those things control you. So many people kind of like negate the chances of having a community and a support system because they're like, oh, I'm drained. But we all are, you know, and it's on you to regulate yourself. It's the same as therapy. Every time I see a post online where someone's talking about being on mental health medication, I saw one today where a girl was saying, oh, I'm on Wellbutrin and now I'm happy. And everyone in the comments was like, made up white girl diseases. And I'm like, one thing I will give to white people is they will hop on a medicine if they need it. And I think a lot of communities think mental illness, you know, and like being LGBT and a lot of stuff like that yoga somehow, despite being from India, is a white people thing. And I think it's so harmful when we label things that are just good best practices for being a human that's alive as like a girl thing, a white thing, a gay thing. I love talking to men and asking. I lift weights, so I like carrying people on my back. I just find it fun, and I like to paint their nails and do stuff like that. And I'll ask my guy friends, like, can I do that? Like, can I pick you up, or can I like paint your nails, or like things like that? And their reaction kind of almost gives me a complete picture of like their consciousness level. Because so many men will be like, yeah, that sounds silly, whatever, let's do it. And others are like, no, I'm not that kind of guy. And like, what kind of guy? The kind that has fun being alive, And Margarita Nazarenko, a speaker I love, was like, she was like, ask yourself with this relationship with this man you're having, where he's making you feel so, unsure of if he likes you or not. Is this how you want to spend the one life you have on earth? And that's really what I emphasize to you guys. If you're scared of looking gay or, socializing or what have you, we are here for maybe like 80 years on average, maybe less. Are you going to spend this time, especially while you're young and you're at the peak of energy, vulnerability? Nobody's expecting you to be this stoic. This is something I gotta keep reminding myself, and why I think total enlightenment is no longer as valid of a goal in this era of AI slop. I think it's way more holistic of a goal to create and appreciate beauty and make community with those around you and be a beacon of light. I think in a weird way, before society kind of did this shift towards the like surveillance and consumerism really heavy that it has been the past couple of years, I think my goal was to be like this liberated yogi. And I feel myself lately, getting in this kind of like, the song Midnight Sun by Zara Larsson, and how people always use Zara Larsson or Addison Rae songs to talk about like being kind of a dumb girl and having fun. And, I saw this ridiculous Substack that was like, embracing Freud slop, how to consume female media without giving into this incel culture that everything females create is garbage. And that is 100% the key. It's 100% the key in my view. And I'm just sharing where I'm at psychologically. It's so fascinating for me to watch my own YouTube videos and see kind of where I've gone. But, and okay, so do not be on your phone. I say all that to say, I have been really bad at responding lately, and not in like if someone responds to me immediately, I respond immediately. But if I see it and I'm in the moment with people, I'm not going to like divide my consciousness from that moment. Like, look at this. Say I'm at a party. This is what all of us are doing. We talk about third eye this, third eye that. I'm at a party. I'm looking at my friends. I'm having the time of my life. I'm listening to music. I'm fully locked in. I get my phone. I'm literally blocking out this portion now of everything I'm perceiving. And I feel so strongly that technology is like kind of the devil. And I always explain this to people, why I'm like almost 20 years older when it comes to being behind on the tech and everything. And I think honestly, with how bad it's gotten, resist it while you can. Because I used to be like, oh, I don't use all these new apps and new devices because I think they're kind of like, a lot of them come from unethical places. There's like children mining for these things. And I feel it kind of dilutes your consciousness, creativity, this daily eroticism, as we talk about in an artistic context. And nowadays, it's gotten to the point that like, if you want to get food, you have to have like a QR code. So I think you should resist it as much as possible while it's not absolutely compulsory. But we don't understand how, it's not beautiful to lose this. One thing I've noticed recently too, I've been hanging out with a lot of friends, making a lot of new friends, just getting in like as many situations as possible. So with that, I've been really bad at responding to like texts, and people get real mad. But I think that's important too, because part of being this, young esoteric single summer enjoyer, your time is yours. I think it's very normalized. I see so many couples where they, you know, they're like, "Oh, I'm going grocery shopping. Let me call my girlfriend, boyfriend and see what milk they want." Like, can't you guys do anything on your own? It's being single and just going out and doing stuff. It's the best exposure therapy. And it's so terrifying to me. And, even if you're already married or you have a kid, it's never too late to like go on a date with yourself. But I do it all the time. Like, tonight I went to like the Dollar Tree and I basically was on a date with myself. Like, I had a coffee. I was picking out things I liked. I was kind of like in the moment. I left my phone in the car. And I just think it's very crucial to not decide you love someone else and they're your whole life purpose, and even bring someone else into the world that needs that unconditional love before you take some time getting to know who you are and what you like. So that's really what I'm saying. And another point I want to emphasize is some of the simplest life advice I could give anyone is like, say exactly what you mean and want. And I know it's scary. Like, I used to be like, "Ooh, I can't tell them I want this." This is where these people online who inspire me come in. I see people online who say things like, just start asking, start doing things and see if you fail. And what's going to happen is most of the time you won't. And that's what's going to make you feel insanely like lucky and powerful. And this is why affirmations work, because if you repeat to yourself, "I am the luckiest girl alive. I'm the luckiest girl alive." The next morning when you wake up, I like listening to them at night, because I feel like at night your brain's more like creative and kind of open to that persuasion. You're going to start moving like you're the luckiest person alive. Like, and you're going to subconsciously, because for me, I'm kind of a skeptic, but I've kind of given into the woo because I see where it comes from with my own eyes. Because my mom said to me, you don't need to have wishful thinking, but you do, because the amount of situations I've gotten into that were positive and magical because I thought wishfully. Like, the other night when I went out, I had like some past acquaintances texting me like, "What's up?" And I was like, I'm gonna not respond to this right now, because the old me would have responded immediately and been super anxious whether I told them what I was doing or not. And then I ended up making a ton of friends and like having the best night ever and running into so many people I loved. And I realized, I think you gotta go out and do things when you're in a high vibrational state, but also you can build from nothing. I remember one of the first YouTube videos I made was called "Rock Bottom is the Best Place to Start." And I've noticed these times in your life where you go out where you're like, I think there's a real manic energy to a lot of people after they have a breakup, where they go out and they're like, "I am God. I'm ready to, date a bunch of people." Not like that. But I'm saying there were times where I was just quite literally kind of bored, isolated, nothing going on. And I went out and it just attracted a whole new narrative that made me realize there is so much to fall in love with in this life. And like last night I went out somewhere and my friend was DJing and I got to see her perform and it was so exciting. And she played the song by Charlie XCX. It's like "Fall in Love Again and Again." And I looked around and I saw everyone dancing and just having fun. And I realized, I think so many people online too are always like, clubs are an empty, vapid space. And I think that's true. However, you can get woke without getting so woke you are better than everyone. So like, for example, I get woke by kindling the fire inside of me versus, I guess, trying to put out other people's fires and burst their bubble. I'm like, my bubble is gonna grow so big that everyone around me is like floating in the bubble with me. Like, that's really how I feel. And, I just think like we do fall in love again and again. And a big thing I've been on the young esoteric single summer. Oh my God, this makes me want to cry. You're so beautiful. Like, you are so beautiful right now. Everything about you. I'm going to go ahead and be vulnerable because I really feel strongly that people aren't ready for vulnerability online. Like, whenever I'm vulnerable online, I feel like a weird inkling to delete it, because I feel like we're so used to like the influencer culture that just emoting online is so odd. You almost either catch strays or you just feel like you're giving too much of yourself away. But I've always very strongly felt like the quote that's like, I want to die used up or something, and not in a weird connotation. Don't take it there, please. But something like that. And I think there's one that's like, oh my God, y tu mamá también, when they're like, you're young, give yourself away like the waves of the sea. And again, don't take this in a weird connotation, you weirdos, but like, you are young, like, give your energy to things, give your, spirit to people, but call it back in whenever you want. You can always say to yourself, I call my energy back in from wherever it was that I don't want it to be. I want it in me now, And I do this by not responding immediately. When you respond so quickly to everyone, you convey that your time is worthless. Like, the old me could not even sit in my house for a minute if I was alone. I'd be scrolling, I'd be like telling someone what I'm up to. And look at me now, I'm sitting here taking a video for you guys, and I'm not even on my phone. I'm like, if someone calls me, they need to wait. Like, I'm not free right now. I'm spending time with myself. And I was listening to a podcast on the way to work where someone was saying, like, I will pick up for people all the time and then be about to film a video, and then I don't even want to when I'm done. And for me, a YouTube channel was such an honest pursuit, or like longboarding or surfing or these hobbies I have where you have to be fully locked in because you go into a flow state of creativity where you are having an ecstatic experience. You're fully in the moment. If you're on the phone, I feel like your mind's a million places at once. And the ironic thing is, I could sit here and talk to you for an hour. I could talk to my mom on the phone for an hour, and it's all energy. It's all time that is like bouncy. It's like high vibrational. When you sit and just ruminate, it's not good. And I noticed this year, I'm trying to get better at like living versus sleeping, but I've gotten really into sleeping like in the past year because I realized if I'm going to be at home, I don't want to waste my time. Like, I think a lot of times our body could use extra sleep. And one thing I pride myself on is I think I look very well rested because I am. I love sleeping. But like, the old me would just stay up all night on the phone. And that's what I'm saying. Like, these things are so insidious that you don't realize, like, they are draining your life force. And this is where I say, I heard this in one of my other YouTube videos I was watching from forever ago. Like, put your shoulders down, stretch out your neck, unclench your jaw. I do this all the time. Like, and I don't know if that really unclenches my jaw, but to me, it's a physical reminder to not be like mewing so hard that I am clenching my jaw. And, just so many things. I think we need to be mindful. And I understand it's harder than ever to do that, but we still have a moral responsibility to at least our young energy to do so. So, I'm not sitting here telling you, go have like 7 people in your phone and then you'll feel like somebody. I'm saying, like, you guys have got to like call your energy back into yourself and truly feel ecstasy in the moment. And I can say, like, I have fun. Like, I enjoy. I do whatever I want. And, I, like, guys will ask me, why are you single? Because men love to ask you that question, I guess, to compliment you or to, figure out what your faults are. And I'm always like, I always say as a joke, I'm picky and spoiled. And I feel like that's a really good answer. And I am a human enjoyer. Like, I really don't like to lie to people, but I also think there's a level of like way you have to talk to people in that situation, because the old me would have been like, well, I really struggle with like staying on top of all my chores, and like sometimes it gets really overwhelming, and like that is so low aura, and I think I've gained so much aura in the past year just by like being my own hype man. And I realized how attractive that energy is because I've seen the effects. And I used to be totally left alone because my energy was so nervous, and no one likes that. They think you like killed a man, And now when I go out in public, I'm so comfortable. It's like they say, give yourself away like the sea or whatever. Like, I'm doing that. I'm dancing, like, and the other day, like, I just want to tell you guys, if this is any consolation, because I wouldn't say I'm the most confident person on earth, but I would say I'm like pretty confident. Like, and not in a way where I'm like, I'm the GOAT, but like I do say that to myself because I used to be my biggest hater. Like, I'd be like, oh, and the movie Requiem for a Dream, where it's like she's so focused in on this game show, and the game show becomes like this weird like tunnel vision thing she's having. I used to do that with literally like my stomach, like somewhere on my body that gave me an insecurity. I would be like, everyone's gonna see it, and I would just be standing like trying to hide it. Like, people know how you look. If it's really that big of a deal, change it. And I think changing it on its own, because you want a better life where you could look better and feel more comfortable in this shallow society, let's be real, do it. Like, I'm gonna sit here and tell you guys, the old me didn't realize how rewarding it would be to put a little effort in my like fitness and appearance. Like, it's rewarding. I used to do it out of self-hate, like, oh God, I gotta go to the gym, like I can't wait to change. And now I'm just kind of like, I'm happy. Like, I like how I am. I like things about me, but it just enhances it that I take care of myself. And that really makes your standards go up because, my coworker was joking with me that this is a joke, but he was saying like she hasn't dated like as ugly of men anymore, and she had a big glow up. And by no means am I advocating for us to be shallow, because I genuinely do believe that, you can't really control your looks that much at the end of the day. But I do think you can looks max. And I think it's very apparent when you see someone that just does not care at all. I think sometimes that can be a red flag. Or if that person perceives, this is a big experience I've had with men, if that person perceives you as out of their league, they're going to try and humble you. And I feel like that's not what you want in life. And I used to feel so bad because I'd be like, this guy told me he has low self-esteem and he's making me miserable and have dark circles under my eyes, but he has low self-esteem. Girl, if you don't get away from that man, he is blocking your blessings, But basically, my coworker and I were having this conversation and laughing that, like, any man will humble you. And sometimes even the ones that say, oh, you're so beautiful, I don't deserve you, will do it, And again, I'm not advocating for being evil and shallow. I hate that vibe in the world so bad. But it is interesting to me how, your reality changes. Like, I have a mutual online who makes content and talks about how he kind of like has always been smart, but he didn't really get taken seriously until he started like looks maxing. And just to kind of insert my looks maxing propaganda in here, same experience for me. I mean, okay, let's use this guy for an example. If you see a smart guy, but he's not attractive and fit, this is exactly what he said in one of his, videos. Like, you're going to say, okay, great. But if you see a handsome guy and he is buff, you're going to be like, whoa, what does he have to say? You know what I mean? It's horrible. It's a horrible situation we live with. Or me, for example, I've always been opinionated and everything. And sometimes I feel even now that I've looks maxed and confidence maxed, which I feel like kind of goes into it. I almost feel like some men still, it's almost like they tolerate what you have to say, or you're able to indoctrinate them because they are invested in your appearance. And I think this is really where like this praxis comes in of, being in these marginalized communities where you're like, I don't think my voice will ever get taken seriously, because a lot of men talk about, oh my God, you're so funny for a woman. That's so funny. And it's like, women can be funny. Like, and one thing I really resonate with is like the concept of, the character Elaine on Seinfeld. They made her so funny because they told the writers, just make a funny woman. Or they did not say that, rather. They said, make a funny character. They're like, I don't know how to write a woman. They're like, don't, just write a funny character. So it wasn't like, oh my God, my lipstick fell. You know what I mean? And I felt myself tap into that side of me if I was in a male-dominated space in the past, because I think it's what people expect. But then also, like, I think I also tap into the fact that I am kind of like a bruh girl, and you know, I think men are weirded out by that. So I've also kind of learned to be a shapeshifter where, like, I know in some dynamics, this is all the grifting, like, alt-right femininity stuff where they're like, and I've even discussed this in my past videos, like, unleash your inner bimbo to get better treatment. And Princess Talia talks about this a lot. And just seeing this content, like, opened my eyes. And I think a lot of my friends think I'm crazy for talking about it. But I've had a lot of time alone to ponder, wherein I think a lot of my friends were in, like, really long-term relationships, which, like, I personally am not a crazy fan of for myself at this point in my life, unless I meet the best person ever, which I feel like they did. But I'm not, like, in a hurry to do that, because I realized I've spent so much of my youth not thinking I was the best person ever. And I want to feel that very deeply before I meet a partner, and the thing that made me even think of this concept of young, esoteric, single summer is, like, when I was at the, place dancing, I felt so free. And those times you're with your girlfriends having a girls' night and you feel so free? Or, like, I've been in a lot of male friend groups, and I think the male equivalent's kind of like when they're all freestyling or something equivalent. But, like, I'm not judging. I really do stand by the fact I try not to judge people for things that spark joy. Like, and men deserve to be happy. I think I'm not saying women need to be nicer to men, because look how they treat us. Like, the things they say are horrifying. But I'm never gonna hate on a man for, like the concept of the ick to me is very dumb if it's something stupid, like he's tying his shoes and he falls. Like, let men be people. This is the effect of patriarchy. This is why they're all, like, beating us up. No, just kidding. That's never acceptable. But I mean, the point is that we all are people. We all deserve grace and love. And I think it's good to be single, because you can really give people your best, and may the best person win. And if they're showing up for you, that's great. But, I have more guys where they ask my number, I'll give it to them, knowing I don't really check my phone. So I'm like, if you have a great proposition, maybe we can hang out. But I'm not going to do the heavy lifting so you can take time away from the time I'm, like, making money and going to the gym. I love those things. Like, and, men will talk to you crazy, and that should not be okay. And like I said, I have a lot of guy friends, and they say women will talk to them crazy, and that's not okay. It doesn't matter your gender. And, I have men say to me, "Oh, you didn't respond. You could have at least told me you don't like me like a person." And I'm like, you don't get to talk to me like that. And my coworker answered the phone the other day, and this man was saying in Spanish all this crazy stuff, like he's a fire marshal and whatever. And then, like, he was just talking to her crazy, and she was basically chewing him out in Spanish. It was hilarious. She was like, "I'm a waitress. I'm busy. Respect me." But she's better than me. I would have hung up. Like, that is how picky you got to get with your time. And I realized this weekend, I've had so much fun because I was selfish, And if you don't text a man back immediately, he's going to think you're a female manipulator and you got millions of dudes in your phone. And I feel like with men that kind of is the case, but I'm genuinely so locked in on the plot of my life right now that, like, I'm wondering, what's going to happen? What do I have to look forward to? And I'm just kind of out here like, okay, I can have lunch with my friends, go see my friend perform, go get food with my mom, go take a nap. Like, I don't want to structure my day around, oh, this man I talked to once is mad I didn't text back. Heavy on the, you're not going to talk to me like that, And I think when you feel in your body, feel your nervous system, you can, like, really be good. Like, feel calm, feel happy. You don't have to be closed off, to avoid getting hurt or avoid someone getting mad at you. That's low vibrational. Be your genuine self, but you got to know when to sever those ties. Like, if someone talks to me crazy, I'm so good, Like, if I'm out and someone talks to me and their vibe is clearly, like, gross, like, when men talk to you and they're not just making conversation, they're like wanting something from you. You know, they'll be like, and I like lean back and then they keep talking to me. I'll literally like pretend I don't speak English, like 100%, like dash away. Cause you're not gonna, you don't have to be anywhere you don't want to be. And I think we don't realize how much that applies in daily life. Like, you can GTFO when you don't like the vibe, you know? But girls go out for girls' night and they have so much fun. And sometimes you see them with like a hating boyfriend who's in the corner, like watching them dance. And I just thought to myself this weekend as I danced, like, not in an evil sense, but like I literally have all the power. This is the peak time of my life. I have freedom. I am cared for by myself. I don't have to answer to anyone. I could do whatever I want. I don't have to explain to anyone. And I realized how many times you will subconsciously think you need to explain yourself to people who don't pay your bills, don't know your zodiac sign, this, that, and the third. And that's when I really realized it's a young esoteric single summer.